All right, Job 1:1. Job 1:1. There was a man in the land of Uz whose name was Job, and that man was perfect and upright, and one that feared God and eschewed evil. So, Job was a man that was perfect and upright. He was the complete package Christian.
Amen.
And we see a lot of great Bible characters, but we could also see some of their flaws, some of their weaknesses, and places where they messed up. But Job got to a point where he didn't really have those weak points. He was in every area. He was just good. He was solid. And so much so that when Satan was in heaven and he was talking to God, he had nothing to accuse Job of. So, and God was like, hey, have you considered my servant Job? He's perfect and upright. This and that. And Satan didn't bring up any sins he did. Satan was just like, yeah, but you blessed him. You made a hedge of protection about him, and you blessed his hands, his work. Touch that, take it away, and he'll curse you to your face. God's like, okay, go ahead and do it. Just don't leave him alone though. Don't touch him. And so we know what happens. Job one day, someone runs in, is like, hey, your animals, the Sabians came, they stole your animals, they killed all your servants. It's just me left alive to come tell you. And then as he's talking, someone else runs in. Hey, your sheep fire came from heaven and killed all your sheep and your servants, but I got away. I'm just me to tell you. As he's telling the story, another dude comes in. It's like, hey, your older son and your other kids are eating together, and a great wind came from the wilderness and just blew the house down, and they're dead. But I'm here. I made it, and that was. Job was in distraught. He rented his clothes. He's like, naked came I out of the womb, naked will I return thither. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Job, man, I don't think I could probably do that in that situation. So Satan moves God to do that to Job. Did I break that? Oops. So then Job still retains his integrity. So then once again, Satan's up there. God's basically like, hey, you consider my servant Job, even though he's got his integrity still, even though you moved me against him without cause. And then Satan's like, yeah, but, skin for skin, touch his flesh and his bone, and he will curse you to your face. And God's like, okay, go do it. Just save his life. And so, He causes Satan causes boils from his feet to the top of his head. He's scratching himself with a potsherd. It's pretty bad. And he lost all of his wealth. He lost his kids. His wife disrespected him. His wife said, do you retain your integrity? Curse God and die. I mean, man. And Job didn't crumble from that. He's like, thou speakest as one of the foolish women speak. And I love that verse because since I first found that, it's been a daily use. It's like, great, honey. Like, hey, can we go to Whataburger? I'm like, honey, thou speakest. It's one of the foolish women. And I'm like, no, she actually doesn't like Whataburger. But Pete Terry's is better than In-N-Out though. But Job had 3 friends. And these 3 friends, they gathered themselves together and they're like, hey, let's go comfort Job. Let's mourn for Job. And that was their intention. That's what they set out to do. It's good start. Good intent. The Bible tells us they were going to go comfort him. We know they didn't. So they get there, they see Job. They're like, oh, who is that? Oh man, I don't even recognize him. Then they mourn for 7 days with Job. They're quiet. Nobody says a word. And then finally, what's his name? One of his friends starts to talk. And they basically saying that, you must be sinning, Job. You must have done something. That's why you're getting all this punishment from God. And basically, Job's like, I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. And now the friend, Eliphaz, the Temanite, and he was the first one to start talking. And it's funny when you read, Eliphaz says in Job 4:12 to 4:17, he says, "Now a thing was secretly brought to me, and mine ear received a little thereof. And thoughts from the visions of the night, when deep sleep falleth on men, fear came upon me and trembling, which made all my bones to shake. Then a spirit passed before my face, the hair of my flesh stood up. It stood still, but I could not discern the form thereof. An image was before mine eyes, there was silence, and I heard a voice saying, Shall mortal man be more just than God? Shall a man be more pure than his maker?" Now to me, sounds like he had a little dream. Sound like he had, to me, my opinion, he had a little visit from Satan maybe. Appeared and Satan kind of nudged him along. Hey, is man more righteous than God? It seems like he got that little nudge from Satan. Like, who else got a little nudge? Eve, the garden. Anybody remember? She got that little nudge to sin from Satan showing up. Sounds like, and I could be wrong on this, but it seems like that could have been. But anyways, Job kind of responds a little later, like, "Teach me, and I will hold my tongue, and cause me to understand wherein I have erred. How forcible are right words, but what doth your arguing reprove? Do you imagine to reprove words, and the speeches of one that is desperate, which are as wind? Yea, ye overwhelm the fatherless, and ye dig a pit for your friend." Job is saying they're digging a pit for their friend. And they even go on to say, it's funny because the friends were saying, when people were down, basically, you would strengthen them. And it's funny, they know that Job does that, and they know it's good, but they don't do that to their friend. And so Eliphaz kind of gets the ball rolling with the accusations. And let me tell you this. In the beginning of Job 1:1, it says, God said he was upright and, he was perfect, right? So we know he wasn't in any sin, right? And, so we know that. So we know they're wrong. Everything they're saying about Job, they just won't stop. I can understand how they maybe thought he was in sin. Hey, but when he said, "No, I'm not," they should have just believed their friend. Believed him and just comforted him and helped him. But they didn't. And Job even tells them, look. He basically says how I've seen the wicked prosper and live old. And they got wealth and they live long. And I've seen good, righteous people, they go through all these troubles. They have all these troubles. So what you're saying ain't even making sense. Like, that I have to be being punished by God just because I have to have done something wrong. He's like, I see people all the time. Bad people, it doesn't seem like the rod of God is on them. Anyways, this all kind of leads me to my next point. This is the friends. Job and the friends go back and forth. But eventually, this kind of leads me to my next point. When it comes to false accusations and lies, and I want to call this guy out. I want to call him out tonight. He's in this room tonight. And I'm going to call him out. And in fact, he's right here in this Bible. Whoa, easy. The pastor's going to give me some kind of move and drag me off. Talk about Elihu. The title of my sermon is Calling Out Elihu. Now, and I just want to say this. When I first read the Bible, and when I first, even 2 or 3 times, I really couldn't, to me, and this just could be me, when I get snowed with information, I kind of miss stuff. So I'm like, I knew the friends were in the wrong, but it sounded like they said a lot of good stuff. I didn't even know what they said. And Elihu, I thought, man, he sounded like he was waiting for the elders to speak first. And he was a younger guy. Then eventually, I thought that was a good thing. I thought, I could see why you kind of think that in the beginning, that Elihu, and you know what the weird thing is, though, is that if you go and Google Elihu, I did this months ago, I Googled Elihu, and I was surprised. There were so many websites, they're saying Elihu was a great man. Elihu was right, Job was wrong. Elihu, I think it said even, like Elihu even, someone said, wrote the book of Job. So Elihu is so great, And here's the thing, though. we know that the first verse in Job says that he was perfect and upright. Boom. And throughout it, Job talking, you think maybe he did something wrong, but here's the thing. At the very end of Job, God says to Job's three friends, he says, I'm paraphrasing, you haven't spoken right of me like Job has spoken right. So Job was still in the right. He was in the right before his friend showed up. All throughout, till the end of the book of Job, he was right at the end, God said. So, and the thing is like, if you're snowed with so much information, you could miss something. And then, when the friends were done talking, this Elihu comes out of nowhere, and his wrath is kindled against Job. His wrath is kindled against even his three friends because they didn't have an answer for Job anymore, and they condemned Job. So he was mad that they condemned Job. And the funny thing is right after he goes on to condemn Job. Oh, I'm so angry he condemned him. Now I'm going to condemn him. Now I'm going to condemn him. So, I'm going to say this right off when Elihu starts speaking in the first chapter that he's speaking, which is, chapter 32 maybe. He taught literally 3 times in a short span, he talks about giving his opinion. Job 32:6, and Elihu the son of Barachel the Buzite answered and said, I am young, and ye are very old. Wherefore I was afraid, and durst not show you mine opinion. If it was just left there, that'd be okay. But then it goes to Job 32:10. It says, therefore I said, hearken to me, I also will show you mine opinion. Wow, there he is mentioning it again. And then Job 32:17, I said, I will answer also my part, I also will show you mine opinion. Just stop talking about your opinion. And if that right there hasn't made you start to get a little sick of Elihu, we can keep going, man. So he said also Elihu says this. He said in Job 33:1, wherefore Job, I pray thee, hear my speeches, and hearken to all my words. Now I just want to stop right here in the middle. This just sounds a little weird to me. It might not to you, but to me, I was like, that just sounds a little weird. Behold, he says this, behold, now I have opened my mouth. My tongue hath spoken in my mouth. Like, what? Your tongue hath spoken in your mouth? Like you're just enamored. He's like enamored with himself. I feel my tongue moving and talking. It's just weird. But anyways, if that doesn't, let's see. Yeah. So earlier, Job was talking about how he wished God was there. Oh, if God was here. I could plead my case to him and this and that. He just wished God was there. So then Elihu comes along. He says, Job 33:5, if thou canst answer me, this is Elihu talking, set thy words in order before me. Stand up. Like, who are you, first of all, to say that to Job? Then he goes on to say, behold, I am according to thy wish in God's stead. I also am formed out of the clay. So he's like, you wish for God, right? Wish granted, you got me, baby. It's like, I'm here, buddy. I'm in God's stead. It's like, what? You kind of read these and you kind of you read it and you glaze over it, but park it on some of these things that Elihu says. It's like, it kind of blows your mind. And also, here's the thing. He says, here's where he lies about Job. He said this. Here's what Elihu said in Job 34:7. What man is like Job, who drinketh up scorning like water, which goeth in company with workers of iniquity, and walketh with wicked men? Who thinks Job walked with wicked men? Did you not read the first verse? It said he is perfect and upright. So are you going to believe Elihu when he says Job is walking with wicked men? Who's going to believe that? You know what I mean? He says, and then he goes on to say, for he had said it. He's saying this, that Job said this, for he hath said, it profited a man nothing that he should delight himself with God. Who believes that Job actually said, that Job, out of Job's mouth, he said, it profited a man nothing if he delight himself in God? Who thinks that? And here's what he's referencing. Now, I don't know if he misheard this or if he's just flat out lying. But Job said in Job chapter 20, if you go back to chapter 21, 13 through 15, he said this. He's talking about the wicked. They spend their days in wealth, and in a moment go down to the grave. Therefore, they say unto God, the wicked, say unto God, depart from us, for we desire not the knowledge of thy ways. What is the Almighty that we should serve him? And what profit should we have if we pray unto him? Job said, the wicked say that. And then Elihu comes along, Job said, what? And it's funny, I think about it. Why didn't anybody answer Elihu after all that talk? I mean, how can you answer that? I mean, who would be angry if one of y'all said, man, the wicked, man, they just don't like God. And I'm like, well, Brady said he don't like God. Would you get angry? Does that kind of anger you? I mean, it's baffling. He also said, here's line number 2. He said in 34:36, he said, my desire is that Job may be tried unto the end because of his answers for wicked men, for he addeth rebellion unto his sin. Well, first of all, he didn't add nothing to sin. He didn't have the sin. Well, he's a sin. Look, he's a sinner like all of us, right? Job was not without sin. He just wasn't in any gross, any open, any big sin. He was perfect in all areas. He was complete. He was like, he had all the areas where we could fall as Christian men and women. He had those strengthened, and he wasn't going to fall in those areas because he was complete. Doesn't mean he wasn't a sinner. But he's saying Job's got to be in sin, and he's adding rebellion unto it. Okay, there was no rebellion. There was no sin. He didn't add this to this because he didn't have this. And there was none of this to add to this. So it's just ridiculous. And he said, he clappeth his hands among us and multiplieth his words against God. Read Job. Where is he multiplying his words against God? Where is he where? And then he said this, line number 3. He says this about Job. Job 34:5-2. Elihu says, thinkest thou this to be right, that thou sayest, my righteousness is more than God's? Come on. We all know Job to be this great Christian. We all know it. Was Job saying, my righteousness is more than God's? Where was he? Do you see the lies this guy is saying about Job? Amen. Then finally, God shows up in a tornado. And he says in 38:1, the Bible says in Job 38:1, then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, who is this that darkeneth counsel by words without knowledge? It's funny. It's funny because if you go back, that's talking about Elihu. If you go back a little, Elihu was saying that Job had words without wisdom. And then God shows up, no, you have words without wisdom. You're darkening counsel. And then he just look, it's funny. It's the ultimate humiliation. Imagine Elihu was talking for 6 chapters. 6 whole chapters. Blah, blah, blah. My opinion. Blah, blah. Oh, and he also said, at one time Elihu was like, I'm full of the matter. We know you're full of it, Elihu. You're right, man. And he's like, all this 6 chapters, God's like, who is this? And he's like, oh, hey, Job, declare unto me. He just totally ignored forever, like he was never mentioned again. Just it's total humiliation, in my opinion. Anyways, so, when you go back, and I got it right here. Therefore doth Job open his mouth in vain. He multiplieth words without wisdom. That's what Elihu said about Job. And then God shows up in a tornado. I can imagine, who imagines God, God's like, we always imagine it like this. God's voice it's wrong, obviously, but he's like, who is this that darkeneth count, but I like to have a little liberty with the tone, and I'm like God, if that tornado had arms, I know it didn't, but he would be like, who is this that darkeneth, or who is this? I can imagine something like, who is this? And I think, this is my opinion, I tend to think Elihu might have not even been saved because he said, God's like, who is this? And you pair that with Matthew 27, where he's like, I never knew you, depart from me. So I don't know, I could be wrong on that, but that's just maybe. Anyways, in conclusion, this is not in the Bible, but it's total my imagination. I just imagine this. But I imagine in light of all that Elihu did, all his blunders, I just imagine, an angel going to Elihu's mom when she's pregnant with him. And the angel's like, hey, one day your son is going to, she's like, oh, he's going to be a prophet of God? And the angel's like, no. And he's like, and he's like, oh, he's going to be like a leader of a nation? And he's like, no. No, get this. He's going to lie about the most perfect Christian on earth. And then God's going to show up and say, who is this? And then she's like, what? He's gonna lie about? And God's gonna be like, who is this? A lie? Who? And then the angel's like, sounds like a good name. See ya. That's just something, I just kind of thought that in my head. Anyways, in conclusion, I hope I proved to you tonight that Elihu lied about Job. It's right there in ink, Thank you.
All right.